Supervolcanoes are likely triggered externally, according to what a new study has found by University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, Liz Albert. Supervolcanoes, massive eruptions with potential global consequences, appear not to follow the conventional volcano mechanics of internal pressure building until the volcano erupts. Instead, concerning these supervolcanic eruptions, a new study finds such massive magma chambers might erupt when the roof above them cracks or collapses. Knowledge of triggering mechanisms is crucial for monitoring supervolcano systems, including ones that lie beneath, of course, Yellowstone National Park, Long Valley Caldera in California, according to the study led by Patricia Gregg, University of Illinois professor of geology, in collaboration with Professor Eric Grossfield, Pomona College, and Professor Shan De Silva of Oregon State University. The study was published in Journal of Volcanology and Geothermal Research. Gregg also presented the findings at the annual meeting of the Geological Society of America, saying, "If we want to monitor supervolcanoes to determine if one is progressing towards eruption, we need better understanding of what triggers a super eruption," Gregg said. "It's very likely that eruptions must be triggered by an external mechanism and not an internal mechanism, which makes them very different from the typical smaller volcanoes that we monitor." So here we're talking about not just the magma building up and inflating, for example, deformation in Yellowstone, what's happening in Hebgen Lake right now. She says that it has to do with the external, that is, something causing the roof of the magma chamber to crack. Now, the supervolcano class as more than 50, supervolcano is classed as more than 500 cubic kilometers of erupted magma volume. For comparison, Gregg said Mount St. Helens ejected about 1 cubic kilometer material. So a supervolcano is more than 500 times larger than what Mount St. Helens erupted in 1980. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box. Here we have Yellowstone. The red outline is the caldera of the supervolcano, and at the northwest corner of Wyoming. It overlaps into Idaho and Montana. You see that the Yellowstone Lake is over part of the caldera, and in the past, the USGS geologists have told us that even a breeze on the surface of the lake could cause earthquakes over the caldera area. And of course, this is one of the 21 supervolcanoes of the world. And on the corner there at the 10 o'clock position, you have Hebgen Lake. That's what's now seeing inflation and earthquake swarms. So, of course, that's what makes these supervolcanoes different than regular volcanoes, is the huge size of the roof of their magma chamber. Now, Gregg says a typical volcano, when it erupts, could have lasting impacts across the globe. She says we've seen that in Iceland when we've had large ash eruptions that have completely disrupted air traffic across Europe. A super eruption takes that to the nth degree, she said. The new study findings are contrary to a pair of papers published in the journal Nature Geoscience back in 2014 that claim a link between eruption likelihood and magma buoyancy. The magma buoyancy hypothesis suggests that magma may be less dense than the rock surrounding it and therefore could push up against the roof of the magma chamber like an ice cube bobbing in the water, increasing the pressure within the chamber and triggering an eruption. But here Gregg is talking about the external effects on the roof of the magma chamber. She said, typically when we think about how a volcanic eruption is triggered, we're taught that the pressure in the magma chamber increases until it causes an explosion and the volcano erupts, like what we're seeing now in La Palma and 2 Japanese volcanoes, Ato and Sakurajima, and of course Kilauea is erupting. Now, concerning though the supervolcanoes, she said this is the prevailing hypothesis for how eruptions are triggered, but at a supervolcanic site, however, we don't see a lot of evidence for pressurization. When I incorporate buoyancy into my numerical model, she says, I could not produce the 2014 studies. Greg's numerical model incorporates all of the physics conserving mass, energy, and momentum to calculate what would happen if a large buoyant magma body were to form in the shallow crust. The model showed that even when the chamber was huge and the difference in density was very large between the magma and the surrounding rock, an unlikely scenario, buoyancy added very little pressure to the system. Greg said, the fact that my numerical model was not agreeing with their analytical solution suggests that there was something missing from the analytical solution. So that prompted me to look closer. Greg said what they miss is the buoyancy in the buoyancy model is Newtonian physics. The magma may push up, but the roof pushes back down. The new study found that the size of the magma chamber is a much greater factor in generating supervolcanic eruptions. The buoyancy studies suggest that this correlation was due to having more material pushed up, but the Illinois-led study found that the size of the chamber affects the stability of the rock containing the chamber. Greg said previous studies have found that as a magma chamber expands, it pushes the roof up and forms faults. As these very large magma chambers grow, the roof above may become unstable, and it becomes easier to trigger an eruption through faulting or failure within the rock. According to the model, if a crack or a fault on the roof penetrates the magma chamber, the magma uses the crack as a vent to shoot to the surface, like a fissure, right? She said this could trigger a chain reaction that unzips the whole supervolcano. Next, her group hopes to take advantage of the advanced computing facilities available at the University of Illinois, such as the Blue Waters supercomputer at the National Center for Supercomputing Applications. The researchers are working to create 4D models that track the evolution of the Long Valley caldera magma chamber over time in great detail. Long Valley, of course, is the California supervolcano, which is inflating. Now, Greg said if we see a correlation between magma chamber size and the ability to erupt, it's important to know if supervolcano eruptions are triggered by internal factors or by foundering and faulting in the roof. It may mean that we have to monitor these volcanoes differently, Greg said. If the trigger is an external force, whether it be an earthquake or a fault, then we should look at seismicity, what types of faults are being developed, what is the stability of the roof, and what kinds of activities are happening on the surface that could cause faulting. And as you can understand, this is by University of Illinois Urbana Campaign on phys.org, as you can understand, the unzipping from the earthquakes and the earthquake swarms in the area, for example, Yellowstone, that is not examined by USGS. They're examining the inflation, the temperature of the geysers, but they're not examining what is happening to the roof of the magma chamber in Yellowstone when these earthquake swarms are taking place. They know it's going up and down, it's heaving up and down, deforming, inflating, deflating, subsiding and inflating, but they don't know what is happening to the roof. So this is one of the things that's very important to look into. I doubt that that's happening. From what we see on USGS and Yellowstone Volcano Observatory monitoring, they don't talk about faults and cracks on the roof of the magma chamber. That's amazing. This is a very, very significant discovery. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support.